Hi, I'm Johanne, and welcome to another Upcycled video. I'm calling this Upcycled because I'm taking towels and I'm upcycling them. I bought some towels from a thrift store. I've washed and bleached them, and I made a really fun weekend project for us to do. So consider joining me, and consider hitting the notification bell and joining me for all of my videos. Thanks for my thumbs up, and advertisements are out of the way. Let's get sewing. My supply list is pretty simple. The towel, some batting, some fabric that you want to use to make pot holders. That's what we're doing. We're making pot holders. I'm going to start off by making about an 8.5-inch square, approximately. I'm keeping everything approximate because I want to do a fun project. I don't want to do a lot of measuring and stressing myself out. And if you're the same, then do it my way or do it your way. Yeah, I'm just taking my batting, and because it's very thin, I'm going to double it. I also have some batting that has some, it's supposed to be like heat resistant. It's got some silver product in the middle of it. I'm using that too. I found that using just that alone is not enough. I still burn my fingers when I've made pot holders before. So I use 2 of the thin batting and then 1, which you see here, the white, which has the silver in the middle. If I didn't have the silver in the middle heat resistant batting, I wouldn't go out and buy it. I would just use the regular batting, whatever you have on hand, because this is, again, for me, I've been trying to clean things out of my sewing room and use things up rather than run into the store every time, because I run to the store for one thing and I come back with 10. So here I have my squares already cut out, and now I'm going to be ready to go to the simple, easy next phase. Before I do that, I'm thinking, why not make a whole bunch of them? Make as many as I can using this one hand towel, and then do some chain stitching. I'll show you what that means later. So I decide just to cut piles of the squares, and some of them are 8.5 and some of them are not. I'm just using that upcycled towel to make sure that I use almost every bit of it. So I'm making my piles and cutting, and then I like getting a basket and putting my scraps in it because it keeps me a little more organized when I'm cutting. But I'll go and I'll do my favorite part, which is picking out the fabrics. And if you have a lot of fabrics like me, it's fun. And if you don't, use what you have. You could even use shirts, you could use dresses, you could use whatever you have. For me, this is just a little bit of what I have. I decided to have a little fun with it and make an applique bunny. So I'm trying to draw one, and after a couple of attempts, I did a very simple, flat, I think it's one-dimensional bunny body shape. But, you know, it works. Maybe you can come up with a better idea, but for me, this worked. And I did it on some muslin. Does that look like a bunny? Almost. Okay, this is the final look. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to take this over to the machine and I'm going to sew that image. Before I do that, I'm going to get a few of them prepped, and that way I can bring them all to the sewing machine and do the stitching all at the same time. Just this, and I'll do them about 1.5 inches apart. There we go. I'll just mark these lines. Let's see. I'm just using the ruler just to keep it semi-straight, and there's no particular reason why I'm doing it this way. It's just I like it. I'm using a erasable fabric pen. It's not a friction one. That's a name brand, but this one seems to be working fine. You just use it and then you use your iron and then it magically disappears. It's really fun. The other bunny pot holder, I decided to put the lines straight up and down. Just what came to me. I have this piece underneath just because I think it will look better. So we'll see. Let's see how this goes. So it's a gloomy, kind of rainy day. I got up early and I put a beef stew in the crock pot, and then I made some dough to make bread. I'm not sure how it's going to come out because I had old yeast, and just like my basement, well, not my just like my sewing room, I'm trying to use what I have instead of going to the store, because I have enough stuff that I don't need to go to the store, thank you God. And it's easier to be creative when you do that, because you can, you have to use what you have and you have to come up with something. Where if you just go to the store, it's like, pick this up, pick that up, and that's what you're cooking that night. Same thing with sewing. I'm getting more creative using what I have, although I have to admit, this carrot fabric, I went to Joann's because, as we know, they're closing, and the Easter stuff was 40% off, and I happened to find this. I went in there looking for some fleece because I didn't have any for my ironing board, so I figured I'll have some now. I'll have it on hand. And of course I came out with other stuff. This adorable fabric, though, was the biggest fun thing that I did, that I purchased. So that's cute on that side. I didn't do this for all of them. It probably would have been a good idea because it helps to stabilize the edges and it makes putting on the binding a lot easier. I simply went around the edge and just sewed all three things together. The top, the towel, and the batting. And it made for a lot easier binding. In hindsight, I would have done them all the same, like that. you just have to remember when you're doing this to turn it over and make sure you caught the whole thing. And here I didn't catch the terry. Probably it would have been better to take them and make them even, you know, even them up on the sides. Then I probably would have avoided most of that. But for me, it added another detail that I liked. That extra line. I like going outside of the line. I like coloring outside of the lines with my threads, with my creativity. I want to talk about the bark cloth that I have. It's an antique fabric. I wanted to make sure that I didn't waste any of it. I went outside of the lines, as you'll see, again, but I think it all works out in the end. You tell me what you think. Tell me what your favorite pot holder is. If you know what bark cloth is, then you know what I'm talking about. I think I might just go around these. That's what I'll do. Just go around a few things. This is very thick. And I have it at 3. So when I go around, I'll just go around very gently. Lift up my foot. On your machine, you have one of these things. This is what it's for. You see this? You push this. Watch the presser foot. It comes up. And you have a free hand. Once you teach yourself how to use that, then you will love it. I do. See, I'm going to come to a point here. I'm going to turn. I'm not using anything but my leg to bring that lever up. Something I'm going to do in the future is take out my free motion foot that goes to this machine, and I'm going to use that, because if I had that right now, then I wouldn't be lifting up my lever. I would be just moving my fabric all over the place. And on the higher end machines, I don't know about the lower end machines, but this is a Juki. I say higher end because I want to pay $1,500 for. So, but it's worth it because it's a great machine. I love it. It comes with a free motion foot. I haven't used it, so it's something I'm going to be using. Now see this? I'm running out of this. However, I have a piece left. I'm going to stick it under there because this is just for me, and this is how I improvise. I improvised, but it didn't look real pretty in the back. I'll show you later. Getting the clips out was a necessary thing. The fabric was shifting on me when I was trying to sew, and I ended up having the terry cloth or the towel be way smaller than the other things that I cut out. So I used the clips, and that helped me to keep it in place when I started sewing. Pins would work too. Pins always stick me, so I avoid them at all costs. Well, let's get sewing these lines. This is fun, and I start in the middle to try to even out the fabric so that it's flatter. If you start in the middle and then go from right to left or left to right, it just makes the project stay flatter. Another reason why I didn't square up the fabric on the top, because I knew when I quilted it shrinks up the fabric, and I wanted to have the freedom to be able to spread out that fabric and not lose to lose the least amount as possible. The next step is cutting them, trimming all the edges, which I didn't show because I didn't do it precisely. I just eyeballed it and then moved on to the binding. So the binding is simple. The way that I'm doing it is very simple. You can do mitered corners. You can do fancy things that I haven't done. I mean, I've done them in the past, but I just don't want to use my brain to figure out how to do it again because frankly, I forgot how to do the mitered corner. I'm going to do it simple and easy. Again, this is a weekend upcycling fun project, not I've got a little bit of a challenge, but I don't want so much of a challenge that it doesn't feel like it's fun anymore. I have this binding that I bought from recently. I had some left over from my ironing board cover. I think I said that already. And I decided, why not use that? I love the color. I just love that green. I'm going to use my clips because I do want to catch the bottom and the top of this. I thought about just sewing the top on and then doing the back by hand because that can be a nice look too. I wanted to finish it, so I opted for this. Just sewing using about a 3 on my sewing machine. I increased the length because the thicker it is, the longer the length makes it better, easiest to go through all the fabrics, and it has a better look. It has a top stitch look to it. I just sew down that one side, sandwiching the pot holder inside of the binding, and it doesn't look that bad. I'm going to go with this look, and I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to do the sides very easy the same way. I'm just going to overlap the sides. I do left, then I do right, and then I do top and bottom. For the ends, I just take a little bit extra, fold that over, do a little finger press there, and then cover up those raw edges. I thought I would maybe leave some raw edges out. As I kept going, I liked the binding better, so that's how I ended up with doing the binding. I always make sure I backstitch in the beginning and the end of these because this is the final binding, and I have to go really slow. If you don't go slow, you end up jamming up your machine. Even if your machine does take thick fabrics like this does, I still go slow. Otherwise, I break thread, and I sometimes even break the needle. I suppose that all goes without saying, but if you're new to sewing, it's just a little tip. And using lots of clips will help that binding lay flatter. Sometimes I try to get away with using the minimal amount because it slows me down when I'm sewing. Even though I'm trying to go slower, I still like to hurry up and get it done. Cutting off the edge, I want that to be flush so that the next piece will lay flatter. So you'll do this to both ends, and before you know it, you'll be done with your pot holder. And they don't have to match my kitchen. They don't have to do anything but just be pretty. When I go to reach for them, they're going to make me happy because I love all of the colors that I picked out. I don't care if this is not perfect to this. I just love this fabric, and it makes me happy when I see it. So that's how it's going to be when I take them out of the drawer. They're going to make me happy. I'm going to dig through my pile and find some more binding and see if they match. If they don't, I'll have to come up with a new binding system, which I will do in the end. This is when I decided that I would get them all clipped and then do some chain stitching. And chain stitching is just feeding one item right behind the other in the sewing machine, and you don't even really cut the threads. Getting all these ready, I put the next pot holder right behind the other one, and I get it done faster. Now all I have to do is take my scissors and then cut the threads in between, and it just makes it go so faster. I couldn't find my little clippy scissors. They were right in the pocket in front of me, but this is how it goes. Now that's a beautiful sight. I got 3 of them all done. I was getting bored with that real easy binding system with just sandwiching them in, so I decided to do a little something different here. I opened up the binding and I laid it down, and I'm just sewing 1/4 of an inch. If my hand would get out of the way. Well, it's probably a little less than 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, I laid the binding down, and you can see how I laid it down. I don't really know how to describe that. Picture probably is better than words. Then I folded it over, and at first I was going to take that and then I was going to hand sew it because I wanted to have something to do later on in the night. But I said, no, I need to finish it. I still had that marker on my thumb. Well, I folded it, and I kept folding it and fussing with it until the front evenly matched the back somewhat. And I decided this was a time that I would practice sewing stitch in the ditch. And that just means that you take the thing that you're sewing and you sew in the ditch. I did have to trim this up, and I wanted to use actually that sewing line as my guide too. So sewing it on the top, both sides, getting it laid down first, then I will flip over the binding and stitch in the ditch. I just binded the sides, and then I was looking at it and it looked a little bit like the rabbit needed some help. I added some squiggly lines, and again, as you can see, I'm just gently moving the pot holder back and forth and letting the sewing machine do the work, but not tugging at it. At the end, I really liked how it looked. Having fun with it again, just taking my sewing machine needle and just using it as a pen. I'm moving this back and forth, but I sped this up. I'm actually doing it kind of gently and slow. If you're going to use that method, you probably should bind it first, like right here, just sew it all down first. That way you'll be able to catch the front and the back of the binding, and then just go at it with your sewing machine. If you have decorative stitches, you can try them too, but this is a straight stitch sewing machine. I might have said that before, and it only goes straight. However, as you can see, it might go straight, but I can still make the lines as wiggly as I want them to be. And I Kind of felt like the bunnies were dancing around a theater when I was making those wiggly lines. It's funny how when you get creative, you just have these fun thoughts, and having fun is the focus. And that's what I was doing here. I hope that if you make these pot holders that you have fun with them and, don't stress out about it. It's all about having fun. So here's the big reveal. I made some more. Oh, let's zoom out. I made some, I took the squares and I made these off camera because it was kind of redundant, just keep making the same things again. I have some nice pretty pot holders. So this is that one that's kind of got a little handle in it there. I don't even mind that. So they all have the terry cloth on the back. I think these are my favorite. And then after a while I got a little bored and I started getting a little creative around the corners, and I've done miter corners. I don't remember how to do them. And I didn't feel like using my brain power to learn how to do it. So these are the pants that I made for my granddaughter. I guess my daughter said they're parachute pants, but they're made out of linen. And I used that pattern that I showed you earlier to do it. And these are a 2T. So some more of my little applique. Love this. So that's it for today. I'm going to go and eat my beef stew, check on my bread, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and like and subscribe if you will. Thank you.